Guys, welcome to Black Scout Survival Late Night Live. Thanks for tuning in, man. I want to cover some stuff first. I've been pretty happy with what Trump's been doing as far as the folks he's been selecting. But I have to say he's messed up a few badly. Being the Surgeon General Jeanette Nishiwat, I guess is how to say. She's one of the ones that advocated for lockdowns and for multiple booster shots, and then another one, Pam Bondi as AG. She's the one that was pushing red flag laws to confiscate firearms without due process. There's videos I'm actually going to post on Instagram if you'll go check me out there on that. I was going to post it in this video, but I don't want to clutter up this video. But these two people, very, very, in my opinion, bad picks. We want to drain the swamp, not keep doing it. Now, I think a lot of it has stemming from Mark Cuban's remarks saying that whenever he was on The View, saying that you would never see Donald Trump surrounded by strong, intelligent women ever. This is just a few of the picks, but I mean, the female quota has been met a long time ago. He really took a hit about that, and he's been filling it up with women now. But again, a lot of them are good, but those two I am definitely opposed to. And I was going to do a dedicated video on that, but I just thought it would, I could throw it in here. But I'm not cool with that. Now, let's start off first with what RFK Jr. Posted. He said the anonymous men and lanyards who are currently running U.S. foreign policy apparently want to start World War III before they leave the White House. And what he's saying is people with various security clearances that are not elected officials, the anonymous, the deep state, are wanting to start World War III. Now, a lot of people are saying this. A lot of people are talking about this as of late. But, today, NATO military official Admiral Baer has stated that businesses can prepare for wartime scenarios and by securing their production and distribution lines to reduce reliance on the adversarial nations like Russia and China. And essentially what he's talking about is us being less vulnerable to blackmail from Russia and China. I'm going to play the video for you so you can see it, what exactly he's talking about. Then we'll talk about it in detail afterwards.
Europe and America need to realize that the commercial decisions they make have strategic consequences for the security of their nation. Businesses need to be prepared for a wartime scenario and adjust their production and distribution lines accordingly. Because while it may be the military who wins battles, it's the economies that win wars. Over the past 2.5 years, I've been going around boardrooms, finance conferences, and even philanthropic institutions in Europe and America to persuade people to think about two questions. One, is my company or organization ready for war? And two, what can my company or organization do to prevent war? Now, that last question might surprise some people, but if we can make sure that all crucial services and goods can be delivered no matter what, then that is a key part of our deterrence. Deterrence is much wider than the military alone. When it comes to great power competition, all instruments of power can and will be used. We're seeing that with the growing number of sabotage acts, and Europe has seen that with energy supply. We thought we had a deal with Gazprom, but we actually had a deal with Mr. Putin. And the same goes for Chinese-owned infrastructure and goods. We actually have a deal with Xi. 60% of all rare earth materials are produced in China, and 90% is processed in China. 90% of the chemical ingredients for sedatives, antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and low blood pressure medicines come from China. We are naive if we think the Communist Party will never use that power.
I mean, he's not wrong in the sense. Now, it gets much darker. No, I've seen people talk about this today, but I have not seen people discuss the darker part. And I'm going to show you what he actually says. the alarming part. But he's not wrong. He said that he thought they had a deal with the Russian oil company, but it was actually with Mr. Putin, and the Chinese owned infrastructure and goods were actually a deal with President Xi. He said businesses need to be prepared for a wartime scenario and adjust their production and distribution lines accordingly, because while it may be the military who wins battles, it's the economies that win wars. All true, right? Now, 90% of chemical agreements for sedatives, antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and low blood pressure medications come from China. It's true. We knew that. That's why I've been advocating Jase Medical Kit. If you don't have one of these, you need to go get one. Links down below. I'll actually put it in the pinned comment as well. I keep these, man, and I have additional medications because they offer a ton of other things as well. But I highly recommend this. It's something I really use. I purchase this. So definitely get yourself one, get your whole family one. And you can get the additional medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and the list goes on. And my kit's fully stocked. But what do you think kind of damage or shutdown they could do to us with this? The rare earth metals, certain metals you can't even get here in the United States unless you're aerospace, like titanium and such. Unless you're aerospace, you can't get it. Ask me how I know. The other thing is like ferrocerium rods, the things that survivalists use to strike. They're not made here in the U.S. Some people say theirs is made in the. This is not true. They're not made in the U.S. You ain't getting them in the U.S. But anyway, we know that the Russia-Ukraine war is escalated because of Joe Biden gave the authorization for Kiev to use the ATACMS missiles within Russia at Russian targets, including ammunition depot. So his speech did not stop there. And this is what no one's talking about. And this is what's very scary right here. NATO considers first strike strategy in case of Russian attack, says top NATO official Rob Baer. So the admiral is saying that NATO is considering a first strike, meaning we strike them first. Okay. He put that out in the public space saying this as a NATO admiral. He said this. Now look at this article here. The admiral admitted that NATO is discussing the possibility of a preemptive precision strike on Russian territory if the conflict with the aggressor state begins. Do you see what I'm saying? He admitted that NATO is discussing the possibility of a preemptive strike. Why you would say this? Now, let's look at the other within this. The idea is that we are a defensive alliance, so we only sit and wait until we are attacked. And when we are attacked, we will be able to shoot down the arrows, missiles that comes to us. But it's smarter not only to do that, but also to attack the archer that is Russia if Russia attacks us. He praised NATO's shift in perception of itself as purely defensive alliance. He added that alliance was moved away from the mindset of sitting and waiting to be attacked before responding to a threat. So what he's saying is instead of waiting for an attack, we go ahead and attack them first. Very scary. Now, what's even more alarming is Russian TV host threatens strike on NATO countries. This was just a few hours ago. He warned that Vladimir Putin may soon order strikes on European NATO members as well as U.S. and Moscow's war with Ukraine continues. Now, I'm going to play the video and you can read the subtitles.
Вопрос не в том, что использовать или не использовать ядерное вооружение. Вопрос, по кому применять. Вот сейчас ты говоришь насчет Франции там, или Великобритании.
Франция,
да?
Германия, Польша, Великобритания, да?
Ну, это не суть. Есть и другая страна, которая, собственно говоря, и представляет опасности, которая стоит за всеми обозначенными. Я имею в виду...
You see what he said? I'm going to cut the audio and read it for you. He talks about Russia, Poland, France, Great Britain. He said that's not the main issue. There's another country that presents a danger which stands behind all the aforementioned ones, and I mean the United States. He was talking about initially, and he's talking about them conducting a strike on NATO countries. He says, while pointing to Germany's arm manufacturer as a potential target, he warned that Russian attacks in NATO countries would come without any warning to civilians, since the countries do not include our civilians. He went on to talk about some of the culture that Joe Biden has pushed. Now, I can't say specifically what he says because I would be kicked out of the United States, probably. But essentially, he referenced the Bible, and he suggests that there's been an abomination committed here, and what the sentence of that is in the Bible. And if you know what I'm talking about, you can put in the comments. He says this brings to the biblical mind the biblical they shall be put to, and there be spread everywhere. He was referencing a certain group that's been pushed by Joe Biden, specifically Harris administration. And he says that it's these people, the same relevance to make the various decisions in the West. And he accused the Biden administration of undermining a peaceful path in Europe favored by the incoming Donald Trump. Now, he says, during the election campaign, Trump talked about wanting to make peace in some way and was leading everyone down a peaceful path. He says, and now they're doing everything they can to escalate the situation in such a way that peace agreements are doomed for failure. So what he's saying is that no matter what Donald Trump brings to the table now, it has escalated so far that there will be no peace negotiations. He said Trump has repeatedly claimed that he will be able to end the Russia-Ukraine war within 24 hours of taking office, although he has not provided any details on how that would be achieved. This goes in the same light as last night's video. And if you didn't watch it, go watch it. I know that video was shadow banned, but go watch it. The same exact light of what Kim Jong-un has said. Kim Jong-un has said the same exact thing. He says he doesn't care that Donald Trump's going to become president. It's done went too far. And this is what's going on with the Biden. And they push things so far that there's going to be no way to turn this thing around. And the escalation, or the continued of, because we still have, a few more weeks before Trump can even do anything. Now, I did hear tonight that Trump is now sitting in with Biden on some of these to try to, get this thing to de-escalate, because that's what we need. We need de-escalation. This is knocking on the door of World War III. And a lot of people want this to happen for some reason in the comments. I see they're like dying for World War III to happen. I don't want it to happen. But the main thing is that how this stuff usually operates, it goes on and on because people want to posture and they want to make their enemies submit, right? And so if their enemies do not submit and we continue down this rhetoric of, hey, man, I'm going to strike first now. Now this nation is saying they're going to strike first. NATO is going to strike first. It's a bad day for everybody, especially them putting out today that they don't care about civilians or notifying civilians, because that's what you do. You notify civilians, get out of the area, and they're saying they're going to just forego that. It's a bad day, guys. Things are getting worse by the day, and I see people on social media. They're cheering, they're happy, everything's fine. Everything's not fine. It's so far from fine. Right now is so far from fine than 4 months ago. Really, it is. They're pushing this junk so hard. And again, like RFK Jr. said, these are unelected officials that are pushing this. People that are controlled by the MIC, or military industrial complex, trying to get this thing moving. The thing is, the military industrial complex does not want to end this war. We just spent $1.3 billion in the past 8 weeks, something to that effect, in Ukraine. Do you think they want they're getting rich off this junk? Do you think they want it to end? No, not by far. When Afghanistan, I said this, dude, I said it in a video, and if you're watching me then, please comment. I said this. As soon as Afghan withdrawal happened, I said something else is going to come up, because the MIC has gotten used to that payday. They have gotten freaking used to it. And that's where we're at. That's why it's so important to get in there and get new blood, flip those old generals that are controlled by the MIC, who are MIC-controlled assets, and get them out of office. Get them out of there. They don't need to be in Washington. Anyway, guys, I do appreciate you hanging out with me. I wanted to share all of this because I don't see anyone talking about it. But Kala says stay frosty, and it definitely is the time to stay frosty. Did you see RFK wants to open up the biz for, I guess, NMN meant? That would be great. I think RFK is a huge asset to the health. I mean, look at the man. He's freaking almost 70, and he's in better shape than most 20-year-olds. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. And I do appreciate you guys. Someone is bringing out, so they're mentioning the Bible. Yeah, read Revelation. Christ is Lord. If you're not right with Christ, get there. Start reading your Bible. Start from Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Go through and definitely start reading. Start praying, and pray for those that are not saved. And go pick up you a Jase Medical kit. And this was not a Jase Medical kit plug, but I do think it's an important piece of kit. It's something I actually use myself. I use it. Like if I get sick and I want to see a doctor, I go use it. So guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me. And remember to stay frosty, stay strapped, and always stay dangerous. Take care.